Module 1, the study of economics. Before we jump into this module, I want to go over some of the structure of how I would like you to do note-taking for this class. For each module, I have created a video to introduce you to the concepts and provide a bulk of your note-taking. Economics can be quite challenging to both read and listen to. Likely, you will need multiple exposures through different experiences to begin feeling comfortable with the language, way of thinking, and academic concepts in economics. To help you with this, you have multiple resources. As your primary homework, I am asking you to familiarize yourself with each module by watching these videos and taking notes. I do not expect you to master the information with this first introduction. However, this is an important first exposure. As you watch the video, I will have slides that show you how I would like you to set up that section of your note-taking. You may find that you have to adjust it a bit for your own needs, but I have organized these models to help you emphasize key ideas and provide room for us to finish discussing ideas in class. Also, be sure to pause the video as instructed to ponder various ideas, and feel free to pause or rewind if you need to review or if you need to have time to write down information. Graphs are an important part of this class, and as new graphical models are introduced, I will provide you with an additional video that focuses on how to organize and use a particular graph. I would encourage you, once you finish the video, to look back at how concepts are presented in the book, especially if you are confused. I would also encourage you to find some method of practice that works for you. For each module, I will provide you with several suggestions. Do not try to do them all, but see if you can find one that really works for you. In Module 1, we will be looking at how scarcity and choice are central to the study of economics, the importance of opportunity cost in individual choice and decision-making, the difference between positive economics and normative economics, when economists agree and why they sometimes disagree, and what makes macroeconomics, the course you are taking, different from microeconomics. Before we get started with actual content, pause the video and take a minute to set up your notes. This format will highlight key ideas and will help you when you look back at your notes to study. Individual choice, the core of economics. Pause the video for a minute and in your notes, brainstorm a list of all the decisions you made during the last 24 hours. Look over your list of choices. What made you decide the way you did? What did you give up as you made these choices? Why did you have to make choices to begin with? These ideas are the heart of economics. The formal definition of economics is the following. Economics is the social science concerned with the efficient use of limited or scarce resources to achieve maximum satisfaction of human economic wants. Or, to put it more simply, economics is the study of making choices. Choices are necessary because resources are scarce. We can't always have everything we want. Every economic issue involves, at its most basic level, individual choice. Decisions by individuals about what to do and what not to do. In fact, you might say that it isn't economics if it isn't about choice. Economics is the study of choice at all levels. Households make decisions about how to fulfill basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter, as well as wants such as entertainment and leisure activities. Businesses make decisions about what to produce, how to produce, where to sell, how to advertise, what price to charge, etc. Cities make decisions about how to provide services such as police and fire protection. Nations make decisions about things like spending on military or social services, education, and how to promote a solid economy. As economists study these decisions, they divide issues up into two categories. Microeconomics studies how individuals make choices and how these choices interact. Microeconomics focuses on choices made by individuals, households, or firms, the smaller parts that make up the economy as a whole. Macroeconomics, on the other hand, studies the overall ups and downs of the economy. Macroeconomics focuses on economic aggregates. Aggregate just means a collection of items combined into a single item. So, economic aggregates are collections of statistics bundled into single numbers. They include measures such as the unemployment rate, the inflation rate, gross domestic product. All of these numbers summarize data across many different markets. Macroeconomics, in other words, focuses on the big picture. To help you see this more clearly, the next slide shows some examples of microeconomic questions versus macroeconomic questions. Here you can see microeconomic questions are looking at, in the first one, a decision by an individual, the second one, a decision by a firm, the third one, a decision by a high school, and even individual decisions at higher government elements, but that are looking at very specific markets, such as the market for iPhones exported to France. While that might be between nations at one level, iPhones are specific markets. Macroeconomic questions, on the other hand, are looking at often things around the health of the economy or government policies. So you see issues of employment, price levels, and government policies. Pause the video here, flip over your notes, and on the back, come up with your own examples of questions that you think would be microeconomic questions or macroeconomic questions. We will discuss these in class tomorrow. At this point, you should have finished your first page of notes. Pause the video here, and at the bottom of this page, summarize the notes before we get started on the next section. Here's how I want you to set up your next page of notes. You can see, again, the key topics that we will be studying in this little set of notes on the right, with room to write on the left. According to economics, we must always make decisions because we live in a constant state of scarcity. We have limited resources, but unlimited wants and needs. What exactly, then, are these resources? First, know that economists often refer to resources as factors of production. If you think about factoring in math, factors are the smaller numbers that multiply together to produce a bigger number. For example, the factors 21 are 3 and 7. Similarly, factors of production combine to create goods and services. Economists divide the factors of production into 4 categories. Land includes all resources that come from nature, so not just literally land, but it would include things like timber, water, minerals, and anything else that land provides us. Labor is the physical effort of workers. Capital is anything that makes us more productive, and we divide capital up into 2 categories. Physical capital are things such as machinery, buildings, tools, and all other manufactured goods used to make other goods and services. Human capital is the education, skills, and training that make you more valuable as a productive resource. Entrepreneurship is the idea of risk-taking, innovation, and the skill of organizing resources for production. Sometimes it is considered its own factor of production. Sometimes it's just considered the skill of combining the factors of production to actually make and market a good or service. Now, what about money? Notice money is not listed anywhere here. Although money is considered important, it is not considered a real resource in economics. It allows you to buy more goods and services, or it allows you to buy more resources in order to produce those goods and services. It's a medium of exchange that allows all of this production to take place. Economic resources are limited or scarce, which implies that the goods or services they produce must also be limited. This is an important idea that we will continue bringing up throughout the class. Scarcity requires that choices be made. Choices imply that things are given up. Because of scarcity, economies have to figure out how they will allocate resources to produce goods and services. This leads to 3 questions all economies must answer. What will be produced? How will it be produced? And who will get the benefit, or who will get what is produced? As we make choices about how to use our resources, we constantly make trade-offs in exchange for one thing in return for another. For example, the size of the school parking lot is limited, which means only a certain number of cars could be parked there. If the parking lot were to be expanded without purchasing more land, what would be sacrificed? Well, if we think about Bear Creek, we have extra land that we could turn into parking. We could just get rid of the baseball field, right? Or the soccer practice field, or the football practice field. Now, some people would say that's a great idea, we should get rid of those things. Other people wouldn't be so happy about that. But they are options that we could look at as how to use our scarce resource of land. Or for another example, a hydroelectric dam is being planned for a river. Many costly resources would be required to build this dam. Those resources could have been used in other projects. So, a bridge over a scenic wild river or a new highway was sacrificed. By damming the river, we also give up goods and services that could have been generated by the undammed river. Maybe guided whitewater rafting was sacrificed. These are conversations that oftentimes societies have to have as they decide how they will use their scarce societal resources. An economy is a system for coordinating economic activities. There are many types of economies built around the way that societies decide to answer these 3 questions based on their own values. In a market economy, markets made up of individual consumers and producers largely make the decisions about what, how, and for whom to produce. So, businesses produce whatever they think they can make some money at. Consumers buy the things that they want and need. These exchanges take place in markets such as stores or online, but government has nothing to do with this decision-making process. In a traditional economy, these questions are answered the way they were for generations and generations and generations in the past. So, how do you know what you will produce as an individual in society? Well, if your father was a goat herder, you'll be a goat herder. Maybe men do the hunting and women do the cooking. Very little individual choice is allowed in a traditional economy, but everyone knows their place and everyone has a role to fill. In a command or a centrally planned economy, the answers of the questions of what to produce, how to produce, and who gets what's produced are determined by a central planning board. put together by the government. Communist countries are considered centrally planned economies, but they aren't the only ones throughout history that have been centrally planned. Now, today, very few economies are purely any of the above. Instead, most economies are mixed. They have one dominant type of economy, but then you will see elements of others. For example, the United States is primarily a market system. However, government does get involved in some things. Government regulates the fact that we cannot produce and use illegal drugs. Government regulates the food and drug industry to make sure our food is safe. Government sometimes gets involved in providing services like health care. If we were a pure market economy, you would not see these interferences of the government in the economy. However, we're a mixed economy, and we value certain things that only government can provide, and so government gets involved and helps create what we hope is a better society than what the free market would produce on its own. In the present-day world, many nations, most nations in fact, have adopted primarily a market economy. Why have most command economies failed the test of history and market economies have succeeded? Well, there are two primary reasons for this. First, incentives. A price is a powerful incentive. Suppose, for example, there is a strong demand for corn, that a shortage of corn exists and the market price begins to rise. A higher price of corn gives farmers an incentive to produce more corn and to profit from the sale. This incentive, created by a higher market price, eliminates the shortage. Or suppose there is a shortage of doctors. In the labor market for doctors, wages will begin to rise. Higher wages will provide an incentive for college students to pursue medical school and eventually supply more doctors to this labor market, eliminating the shortage of doctors. This is why garbage men get paid so much. Nobody wants the job, so the market drives the price up, and people are attracted to the job because of the high pay. Another reason for the success of markets is property rights. In a command economy, the government owns all resources and property. So a farmer doesn't own his own land. The land is owned by the government. Why would a farmer take good care of his land if it wasn't his land to begin with? Why would the president of a company take good care of her factory and machinery if those capital resources were owned by the government? She is unlikely to produce a high-quality product or invest in new or better ways of producing those goods if she cannot enjoy the rewards from those investments. Pause the video again, and again take a moment to summarize this set of notes. Now, go ahead and set up the last page of notes for this PowerPoint. The sacrifices that are experienced when choices are made are called opportunity costs. To get more of one thing, you forgo the opportunity to get something else. Opportunity cost is considered the real cost of something. In the previous examples, the decisions made in the face of scarce resources involved bypassing other opportunities, and these foregone opportunities have a value or a cost. Suppose you purchase a digital camera that costs $100, and you decide not to buy a pair of running shoes that also cost $100. The opportunity cost of buying the camera is $100 plus the foregone enjoyment of the running shoes. Think about the various after-school activities that we offer here at Bear Creek. By choosing to play tennis, maybe you gave up playing soccer or being part of the school play or marching band. If you gave up a spot in the band, that would have been your opportunity cost for playing tennis. Now, this doesn't have a price, but it did have an opportunity, and it did have a value to you, and it did have a level of enjoyment. So, what about free stuff? Well, even free things like the wooden stir sticks and metal can opener you get if you buy a gallon of paint are really not free. Resources were used to make these items: wood, aluminum, labor, and because all of these resources had alternative uses, society gave up something else to produce these items that you received at seemingly no cost. Think about the free education you receive at Bear Creek High School. Again, while you do not directly pay for it, taxpayers have to contribute money that they could have used for other things, but also all of the teachers, the buildings, the land, those resources could have been used to make other things in society. So why do we have a free education? Well, we consider investing in the education of our youth as development of human capital, and in fact, studies have shown that this will make us a more productive, more wealthy society as a whole. Thinking on the margin. Many of our decisions are made on an incremental business basis, where we are asking questions of how much or how many. We call this thinking on the margin. For example, a person might consider whether he or she should spend another hour on Facebook. If the person believes that additional benefits received, such as enjoyable communication with friends from this activity, outweigh the additional costs incurred, like a poor grade on tomorrow's geometry quiz, then that person will spend another hour on Facebook. Notice this isn't asking, should I get on Facebook ever at all or not? Should I have a Facebook account or not? But should I spend the next hour on Facebook if I've already spent 2? When you consider the additional costs of the next hour on Facebook versus the additional benefits of the next hour on Facebook, these are called marginal costs and marginal benefits. When we think on the margin, we weigh the marginal costs and marginal benefits of the next unit. Economists assume that people will choose actions only if the marginal benefits outweigh the marginal costs. So, if the marginal costs outweigh the marginal benefits, you'll choose not to do that activity. Positive versus normative economics. Positive and normative economics refer to the types of questions that economists are looking at and the types of statements and analysis that are being judged. Positive economics is economic analysis used to answer questions about the way the world works. These are statements of what is or what will be. There are no values involved in this. Normative economics is analysis saying how the world should be. If we're thinking about what should be, people are going to have different opinions based on their different value judgments of what is right, wrong, or best. For example, a positive statement, it is 60 degrees outside. This is a statement of what is. It's not really up for debate. You take a thermometer outside, it says it's 60 degrees. It is positively 60 degrees. An example of a normative statement: it is too cold outside. This is a value judgment, and there is no way to determine if it is right or wrong. One person may think 60 degrees is a great temperature, while another person might be cold. Pause the video here for a moment. Brainstorm examples of positive and normative examples on the back of your notes for us to discuss in class. They can be related to anything you want. When and why economists disagree. The news will often emphasize the disagreements that exist between economists. News channels will pull two economists, one who has more conservative ideas and one who has more liberal ideas, and they will throw out a highly contentious topic, and the two will debate and explain why one is right and one is wrong. Why does this happen? Well, economists are people, and they have their own values just as all people do. So they're allowed to have their own opinions. Sometimes economists also disagree because they may use different models or methods to conduct their analysis, which leads to different results. However, when it comes to the fundamental principles of economics, economists find they agree on far more than they disagree. In other words, things that have been proven over time, and they are what is kinds of statements, they are positive economic statements, all economists agree on. Some of the normative ideas of what should be and what is right and what is best are where they come up with their own thoughts. Pause the video again and summarize this final section of your notes. Here are some opportunities for you to continue practicing the ideas you have learned in Module 1. The first two are websites that have some vocabulary interactive activities. And then your book has some opportunities for you to practice and review and quiz yourself as well. I encourage you to check these out, see what you think will help you reinforce what you've learned in class, and go ahead now and start studying early and often for your end goal of the AP test in the spring. This is the last slide of the video. Take a minute and review your notes. Add your own examples where you can. Mark questions you have that you wish to discuss in class tomorrow, and write any questions you want me to go over in class on a note card, sticky note, or small piece of paper. You'll hand them to me as you come in, and I will take a few minutes and make sure that all of your questions are answered before you leave class tomorrow.